Okay, welcome everybody to All Access Breakfast Club. Excited to have episode 2 or week 2. We're going to talk about the Lakers and Denver Nuggets. We'll do a little bit of recap of talking about Boston and Miami, but playoffs have been great. Looking forward to it. Rising Coaches, of course, we want to show love. www.risingcoaches.com. Please check them out. Membership's just $10 a month. Definitely a great resource for your career and so many ways for you to continue to rise as a coach. So, I'll pass it over to Jimmy, and then we'll kind of get started on how the format will go today.
Yeah, so excited to have you guys. The guys that were here last week, appreciate you coming back. And the group text has been great, too. It's been pretty fun to kind of interact as things go along. For you guys that are new here, welcome. The one thing I ask for you guys, too, if you enjoy this or don't like it or whatever that you do feel, let us know. Like, this isn't just for us to talk, and, this is something that we can all learn and grow from. And then we ask that if you like it or, stimulate some thought, bring people with you and to share ideas, nothing off the table. Excited to get going today. Really, it allows me to watch the games a little bit more closely and talking to it with you guys. I hope you guys feel the same way. But I'll send it back to Brian. We'll kind of get this thing going.
Yeah, we'll add a little bit today. We'll add some breakout rooms, try to stimulate some conversation that way for the first quarter. Second quarter, we'll still do a little bit of conversation around some of the numbers and details. And then third quarter, we'll get straight to film. We'll try to do a little more film to stimulate the thought by watching film too. And then lastly, we'll go to just kind of recap strategy. What do we think for the next game? So without too much else being said, if anybody doesn't have any questions, we'll just kind of go to breakout rooms. So we'll probably do 2 6-minute rooms. The first one we'll actually talk a little bit about, since we spent so much time on Miami and Boston, just general conversation on what we think in that series. What are the changes? Before we were talking about Boston not having any depth, and now obviously Hayward's back. So they're a much different team with him. And then obviously Hero had a monster game, and so they're in game. They're getting tighter and tighter. So it could go to 7, may not, but definitely would love to hear some reactions on that. And then we'll go breakout rooms on the Lakers and Denver series next, real quick, and then we'll get kind of straight to speeding up the process. But you should get a breakout room on your screen, and then we will go straight to it.
I got nothing, sir.
It's coming.
All right.
All right, should be going now. All right, Jimmy, take it away.
Cool. So what I wanted to do this week is a little bit of a change up from last week. Instead of really just talking about certain things, I kind of wanted to give it from a coach's perspective. We'll start with the Nuggets. I looked at this from the defensive perspective and kind of broke it up into areas, kind of hopefully what their film session would have looked like yesterday, going into the game today. And taking games 3 and 4, I think 1 and 2 kind of they figure each other out a little bit. Game 3 and 4 is where you really start seeing the adjustments going forward. You kind of talk about what we can maybe expect from game 5. Going to start with the Nuggets here, and you'll see kind of how I broke it up. This is kind of how we would run our stuff here, and talking about transition first, build your defense there. ball screen coverage defensively, and then getting into some shell concepts. And then we'll kind of talk about it a little bit, and then we'll come back and talk about the Lakers and kind of their defense and what that looked like. And like, as always, guys, for you guys that are new here, if you feel like you want to jump in at any point, please shout in, talk about if you want to rewind a clip, something you see that I don't hit on, no problem. We'll start right from the get-go, transition defense. And this is just, I think, the Lakers do a great job in transition, but LeBron James can't go all the way to the rim. This is 10:30 in the first quarter. That's a layup. That, again, 14-12, like stunting at him right there, like not good enough. Dwight Howard untouched. Again, this is game 4 again. Paul Millsap, no resistance, right? Now, I mean, we've seen this story since LeBron's been in the league. They're up 4-minute game. LeBron's coming, right? This is just film session. This is one-on-one, like protect the basket. And like they're capable of doing it, right? Like this just happened. This is, that's the wall. And I think Denver needs to take a page out of the Magic playbook, what they did in the series against the Bucks with Giannis. It needs to look like this for LeBron every time he's driving. If he gives it up early to KCP and you get sort of a late contest or Danny Green and you're kind of there, I think this is what you need to see. And then you can kind of go from there. Whatever happens after that can happen, but giving LeBron the easy ones can't happen. Much like that, like time and score dictates 2-for-1 situation. Rondo got the ball. Like, he's going to be he's a smart player, gets to the rim and won. Like, regardless of the result of this game, like this could be tempo changing, game changing. 18 points, and 1, go down to 15. You get another possession in the quarter. That steamrolls to the fourth. And then same thing. You get the basket protected. Like, KCP's dotting this up. That's not good enough. Definitely not in the playoffs. Same thing. KCP running wide. Danny Green running wide. Like, Jokic doesn't have anybody. Gary Harris, nobody. Right?
Jimmy.
Yes.
So this is kind of something I was thinking about when you were talking about the wall. So in that clip, you brought up the wall, which, it's a great point, but there were 2 drivers that were close. And, like there was McGee, close. Can't remember who else was there that was building. Yeah.
Yep.
So like there really is no shooter one pass away. So like those clips that you're just at right now, if those shooters are in these high spots and they're one pass away, like they're going to be getting those looks that you're saying that are not good looks, in my opinion, right? Do you think that, and then in that situation, are you living with it, or how do you feel about that?
I think you got to schematically plan for LeBron, and then everything else is secondary. Personally, Milwaukee Jacks have a ton of threes. They play pretty much 0 non-shooters, and so Brooks running the corner, DiVincenzo, George Hill, Middleton. Like, it should look like this, and I think it depends what you're standing like. You could tell this is their focus right from the jump, right? Like, hey, like even Gary Harris is at the nail. Like, Jamal Murray's staring at the ball. Like, there's nowhere for him to go. So this is what I think they're trying to do as well. And I think if you let LeBron get to the rim or even just have one guy on him, he's going to be able to get fouled or get muscled. What was said about the foul situation, I don't know, about how LeBron didn't get fouled going to this game. So he's going to be a little bit more aggressive trying to get those foul calls. But I think as a game plan, you got to keep him out of the paint. And especially if McGee's out there or if they have a true 5 and Anthony Davis at the 4. But I can see both ways for sure, but I think you can't let LeBron get going.
Yeah, I agree. I guess real quick on this. So like I said, this is an easy setup because I think AD's probably in, AD's coming in, or AD is in, he's coming, he's trailing, right? Yeah. So let's just say not that you run McGee to the corner, but KCP and McGee were switched.
Yeah. Now
you're giving up that transition 3. Like, are you trying to stay with KCP a little bit, or because, like I said, this is an easy one?
I think this wouldn't change no matter who McGee is. That could be, for me, like I think that's how you want to start the game. I think LeBron's trying to get going early, and building that wall early, I think helps. And I think you can do both. Because you don't have, like, as long as you guys are showing a crowd, I think Orlando did it great. and they have good
Yeah,
length
they do.
too, but like, Grant, Millsap, Jokic, each one probably have a 7-foot wingspan. You don't need to be really hugged up. You can still be there and still get the shooters late. And I know Anthony Davis isn't in the picture, but I think it can be done. Especially like it's not like the Lakers have been drilling shots throughout the bubble either. I think they got a lot of slack for not making shots. I know KCP's gotten it going a little bit lately. But I think, I think it starts at the head of the snake with LeBron.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna actually ask a similar question to that, and just you asked it, Matt. Great questions and great answers too, Jimmy. It seems like it's like a pick your poison. Obviously, they shoot 30-something from three. Going from an analytics standpoint versus LeBron, he excels in transition, and that gets him scoring. He struggles to score in the half court, especially if he isn't getting fouled. I think they did a great job, even in the half court, of making him kind of take those free throw line jumpers in the last game, and he doesn't really confidently want to do that. So I think transition with LeBron is definitely a big thing.
I definitely agree. And kind of going forward too, like, they got to figure this out. Like, that's still not good enough. Like, no matter what your rules are here, you got to find the shooter. Like, 4-point game, sped up. Like, wide open three is not good enough. So, and we can talk about shot selection too, like get into that shot. But bad shots against this team, like, that's the result, man. Like, playoff basketball can't give up easy points.
So Jimmy, like, to your point, and like I said in the group, like when we were watching this game and everything, like this game had a real YMCA feel to it at certain points. And it was exactly because of this. Like, there were 2 or 3 possessions in a row where they got out in transition and they're punching it 2-on-1 type deal. And it's like, I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody says. Like, 2 points is not 2 points. There's times where, like, it destroys you. And, like, on the scoreboard, 2 points is 2 points. But, like, we all know that feeling when all the air goes out of the gym and you have to burn a timeout because your guys literally just got kicked. And, like, it's just it's horrible when that happens 2 or 3 possessions in a row for sure.
Yeah. And Meta, like, I got those 3 shots that they took here in this sequence in a row at the end. We'll kind of talk about it. Like, just something else worth noting. Like, can he make this shot? Yeah, of course. Time and score after the situation, not a great shot, especially if Anthony Davis contestant, maybe not your best shooter. Like, this is what gets the Lakers back into this game. This missed shot, like, this is how they can get going. Like, I couldn't agree more. Talk about pick and roll defense, and this is not meant to be a session on attacking Jokic like as a defender here, but I'm gonna let these roll. Just watch. This is Jokic and how their attack on him. It's pretty evident. Right? Everybody knows it's coming. Again. So with that in mind, same deal, right? His teammates know his liabilities defensively. So what you get when that happens, they're going to be in this drop right here with LeBron, Dwight Howard rolling to the rim. That pressure of him being this step here instead of being here draws Jamal Murray there. And then, now LeBron can find that guy, and this is a corner 3, pretty much uncontested for him. So when you try to make up for that ground that he can't cover, that's what LeBron can find. I think the only answer is that Jokic got to be better. I don't think there's any way around it if they stand a shot at winning. Talking about other coverage here, rejecting ball screens, I noticed has been a really, really big theme. Like, this can't happen. Porter Jr. is jumping out, and we can talk about his defense here. There's a few clips, but if you allow a guy to reject the NBA, it's pretty much a bucket.
That's 4-on-3. It's over.
On that one?
No doubt. Who was that?
I said that's 4-on-3. It's over.
Yeah.
Like Porter Jr. is not in that play anymore at all. Gone completely.
Yeah, Brant, hell of a question. Like this, like it can't happen. Like there's clearly a breakdown verbally, physically, altogether. Again, another reject coming. Like Jamal Murray does this a lot, especially this is what's really hard about the NBA that I've realized about guys that are like drivers or under guys that you were trying to get under. If you look for the ball screen, like you've been going under Rondo his whole life. Like Rondo knows that. Like he's going to be able to sell it. So whether they're going to ice this, switch this, whatever can happen, like this is what can't happen. Like he's too good. And the same thing here. Like, yeah, you pressure there, and then like Rondo hasn't even moved. Like he's running away. Like it's like a video game glitch. Like he's trying to beat to the spot there. All right, you stand your ground, and then it's a blow by. So no matter what it is, again, no impact on the ball. Rondo, like this is a tough angle to try to get under, but you got to figure it out. Because then Millsap's a little too high, and that's 2 points. And now talking about Porter Jr. So this, if you look at time and score, 7:45, 44-37 score. Here's the play. Organic. Porter jumps out early, which never is going to impact it because you're not pressuring the ball anyway, so that's just a bad decision. Kuzma slips out. He's going to shoot it, right? 3. 47-37 is the score. Denver hits a 3. Timeout's called. Lakers come after an ATO. What are they going to do? Slip Kuzma out with Porter again. Wide open 3. So we had a talk in our breakout room. What do you do to kind of disguise him? Same way Boston. What do you do with Kemba? They got to be better. Like there's like you just got beat on this. It can't happen twice. Like there's no point of hedging on LeBron if you're not going to play the ball screen anyways. So what are you going to do to impact LeBron out there? Nothing. That's just 6 points you allowed.
But Jimmy, do you think that's Porter Jr.'s choice that he's just making bad choices twice in a row type deal? Or do you think that for some reason he thinks that that's their coverage? And I just don't understand what he's doing at all.
Yeah, like I think the only way you can hedge like that and still be able to make the play and whatever disrupt the is if you're playing the basketball, right? Like if you're not defending it out there, what's the point of soft, like just getting him to throw the ball? Well, LeBron's, one of the best decision makers that ever played the game, like and especially in those situations. So I think you got to kind of play, like no matter what your scheme is, whether it's contain them or whatever, like you got to read the game too. Like the help's all over here. If LeBron does drive it, right, obviously he's an ATO for the slip out for the shot. But, like, Porter Jr.'s got to see, like, hey, man, they were in a stagger with, JaVale setting it here. Like, if we force the ball there, I could still be able to recover straight to and not lose contact to Kuzma. Like, he should be on his body, great, but you can't get screened there. That's not good enough. And then you jump out, and then it's just, same song, same dance.
What do you think the play is, Jimmy? Then do you think Denver needs to make LeBron beat them and do a better job on everybody else? Or do you think they just need to do a better job as a whole?
I'd be curious to hear what the communication is right here with Porter Jr. and Jeremy Grant. Like, is he saying, like, left, or are we supposed to be doubling it, containing it? I'm not sure what the thing is. But, like, Jokic got to be talking because he can clog up that whole area. If, like, you can just say force him left, Porter Jr. might be able to stay a little bit more attached, and Grant can at least influence him that way more. But if you're not pressuring the ball, it doesn't matter whatever you do, whether you switch it here or not. Because Grant's not going to switch on to Kuzma if he doesn't get clipped anyways, right? Like, you only really supposed to switch if you get clipped.
If Grant doesn't move up or down, but, probably up, if he doesn't move up, there's not really a path for Porter Jr. to get back to Kuzma, right? Like, he's literally screening him.
Yep, exactly. So it's like he's either going to be here or like here. Like there is just the worst thing, especially if you're not playing ball, in my opinion. But they're picking on him this in the sense to make the mistake. Like no other player they're running this and hurting with. I think you got to either pick up LeBron and, you know, you can pick him up more if you're going to set ball screens because then you can double it and do all sorts of stuff. But if you're not going to play the ball tight, I think they just don't want Porter to cover LeBron, which understandably so. But I think they just got to, you know, whatever your plan is, you got to be able to show, get back, and contest. It's not easy, but, you know, look where the help defense is. You got to be – someone's got to talk that out.
So this has to be like a wrinkle. Like this is how they normally play, but with LeBron, you're sticking.
Yeah, I think the playoffs, that's what it's all about, like the next level. Like you got to be able to adjust on the fly to these situations and be like, hey, like I know you're showing and whatever. Hey, it's an ATO. Nothing's off the limits. They just ran this. You know what I mean? It's not like it should be unfamiliar. He's slipping out, like empty side pick and roll, two, you know, guards or whatever, two guys that can shoot the ball. I don't know what their coverage is with that, but like LeBron's involved, like all bets are off. I think you can't, like, one, it can't be an easy layup and it can't be an open three. And like the play, like LeBron picks up the ball, like everybody's got to be talking here. Like there's 4 guys on this side of the floor, like offensively for the Lakers. Like if you're not talking that out, especially with a complete non-shooter on the floor, I think that's a major mistake. Then you start switching, and when that happens, like you can't get beat. Like that's golden rule. Again, switch and then 2 guys take the ball. Can't happen. Like these mistakes, the Lakers aren't really making these mistakes, and if they are, it's definitely not as frequent right now. Like Jamal Murray, I don't know where he's going, and I mean mid-range shot, and we can talk about that, whatever. But talk about this rotation, right? So curious to get your guys' thought. Now, KCP could have laid this in, and I'll rewind it back. Right, here's the shell formation, right? So who's taking the rim? Who's the sink guy? Who's the fill guy? Right? And you can kind of talk both ways. Is Jamal supposed to come because he's the low man technically, or is it superseded because JaVale's in the court and Jokic is coming? No matter what, there's got to be a fault there. Anybody have any thoughts on Denver, what they're supposed to be doing, what you think they should be doing? Curious.
I mean, one thing that's so obvious is JaVale McGee's not a perimeter threat. So why Jokic is not the guy who's more so protecting the rim, I don't really know that I understand that. I don't know their scheme, but, you know, obviously the Lakers are going to have 2 floor spaces on the floor as much as they can with KCP and Green. So, you know, just to limit them from the one thing that they do well, I would say Jokic. But again, he's not a great defender, so I'm sure that's part of their attacking. Curious anybody else thoughts.
So I think it does become subjective. I would personally probably help from Jokic, and then I would have Jamal be the guy that is smashing the flash or tagging the roller, so to speak. So he would go over and put a forearm in McGee, and then I would have – is that Grant at the top there?
Yes.
Yeah, I would have him sink and be what we would call 2. So he would have both closeouts, and then Murray would have the second closeout, and then we're all the way back to what we need to be at that point.
Yep.
Right. So like in an ideal, like it's kind of a subjective one, right? Because like if you help from Murray, I think you're screwed on the 3 ball to Danny Green, not even drive, kick, swing type deal. I think it's just drive, kick, shot.
Yep.
But if you help from Jokic, which kind of makes the most sense, I suppose, you get a big helping. This is a good cut by McGee coming down. So, you know, like whether you want to hit McGee from Grant or from Murray, like it's subjective, but I think I would probably do it with Murray because it's in front of him. And then Grant would have to be the most alert player to drop and go to 2 different spots. But to be honest, that's kind of more of a college philosophy, I think.
I will say too, like, I think at least like you can tell Murray is not coming to help in this. So Jokic has to be the help guy, right?
Yeah.
Right.
If you're Millsap and McGee, they're set up like this, McGee up top, like loaded side ball. You can't get straight line drove from the corner. Like, because that puts Jokic in a tough spot.
Yep. I think even just in going back a step, like it looks like they're trying to figure this out, right? Like you see Millsap and Gary Harris talking this out, right? Initially, these are the matchups right here, here. My concern is they're talking about the low man already, and that's basically probably disrupt JaVale McGee on the roll, right? Because he'd provide more of an impact on if there's a lob with Jokic being higher, whether they're containing LeBron here. So when they switch this, I get it, right? That makes sense to me. But at the same time, you want to give – that's the better shot you want to give up defensively is an above-the-break 3 to Anthony Davis compared to a corner 3 to KCP. So I think you don't mess with the backside low man. I think you hold your matchups and let, in this case, Millsap tag the roll high and let him stay out and not allow the play. And what you're allowing is either LeBron trying to take a tougher shot at the rim or a kick out to Anthony Davis for a late contested 3. Just thinking about it, whether Jokic or Jamal Murray is the rotation guy. That's how I'm like. It's got to be a numbers game. I don't think a corner 3 to KCP is the shot you want to give up. And like he could have done anything here. And Millsap, he closed them out to drive, right? He didn't close out to take away the shot. So I think it's just bad altogether. And Jamal Murray here going through the motions, right? Jamal Murray's the low man, right? This is a shell drill. Everyone sees it. Every coach in America like hates doing shell drill when it's not live because this is the effort you get. You get this. Oh, I'm closing out to the gap, and then he drives it. It's a blow by. I think
Can you go back one clip again, back to the last one?
Yeah.
When we're talking about manipulating the low man,
Yep.
something almost doesn't really make sense to my mind, and you would probably know better than me, but don't they typically play this pick and roll, the LeBron pick and roll, with 2? And if the answer is yes, then why even manipulate the low man at all? Because you're not going to tag the roll.
Yeah, so like Jokic is up high. And LeBron gives it up early. I think this is they got to do better on this. I think you got to try to keep Grant on him. Like Jokic doesn't need to be up that high if LeBron's out that high too. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does to me. So
yeah.
Excuse me. That would have been my next question. Like, why even move Jokic that high? Like, I don't think LeBron really shot the ball particularly well in this game, and he's not going to continue to drive at him if he's in a drop.
Yeah, I think what you got to do here is you got to send him towards the double side anyway. So if you go under this one, you'd force him back middle, and then Danny Green becomes a shake guy, and you allow Millsap to plug that gap, and then it allows Jokic to sit deeper, and Jamal can stay closer to Danny Green. I think that's what I think schematically should do. Go under this one, force him loaded, and play from there. Like there's no need to be that high. Like Jokic isn't going to turn LeBron over or make him give up the ball.
Like you kind of said, though, like I just don't even understand the manipulation of the low man. Like I don't really get what they're trying to achieve out of it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this is like them thinking coach said, hey, we're going to get it out of LeBron's. But like, if it's this far out, go under LeBron or go out in it pretty much, 99% of everyone in the league at this point. Like that's far. But we'll kind of talk about this and, Jamal Murray going through the rotation here. That's just not good enough, obviously. Not going to talk about that too much. Some shell clips real quick. So talking about bad closeouts leading to the help guy, whatever the case might be, like this closeout's not good enough. Allow middle drive. Now, who's the help guy, right? It probably should be Porter Jr. They're kind of in good position here. Jamal Murray, got a sink. Play 2, as we were just talking about. These mistakes can happen. Again, this gamble right there on LeBron especially can never happen. Forces him to come over. Gary Harris, who's hugged up on the weak side on the shooter, becomes the guy that's got to tag the big, and one. Some off-ball screening stuff, not good enough. Again, a little flex, not good. Quick little cut here. Porter Jr. sleeping, they run into each other. These would get you beat. So these communication situations, so bad close, Gary Harris comes over, Jokic sinking, got to go, Jamal's coming. Well, 2 guys go to the ball, and you can't leave that guy. So that's just, again, communication, I think, for Denver is a pretty common theme. Like, right, what is this? Stagger screen coming off. Are we switching this or not? Jamal and Monty Morris on the ball. Open three for the corner. Here, talk about this real quick. This is, cutters, boom. They skip it out to Rondo. You got to know who you're closing out to. They're doing good zoning up. Now running there, you got to know who you're going to. And then you definitely never want to foul a floater. NBA golden rule, you don't stunt off the strong side corner. That gets you beat. As it says, no awareness of what's going on.
That was an and one, by the way.
Yes, should have been. Right? Like, you're watching LeBron, I get it. But I don't know that, whatever. This is just, this is the NBA.
It's too easy.
Too easy. Again, like, no resistance. Got to be better. So I'll stop it there. Any other thoughts about Denver or what Denver could be doing, tonight to make sure they're not going home?
Like I said, I think the biggest key for Denver is turning the ball over because the Lakers are so elite of getting out in transition. So if they keep it low turnovers, they have a shot.
I think too. The Lakers, all the games they've won, they've killed Denver on the offensive glass. Like Denver can't let guys like Rondo and Kuzma and those guys get them 4 extra possessions a game. Like Rondo should be able to get 4 boards if they're going to win the game, especially if they're going to come back down 3-1.
I think if they, especially with the stuff that you're showing, Jimmy, it's a lot of possessions they're giving up. Like they're just giving up a lot of possessions where the Lakers don't have to work hard. So just go back to your habits and just do what you've always done and what comes most naturally. Like you're not going to figure out how to communicate in game 6 of, the Western Conference Finals or whatever. You're just like, that's just not the time that you're going to learn those things. So like that'd be especially with Porter Jr., being out, like, we give him a lot of flack, but that's tough. It's a tough spot for him to be in. And we talk about rookies in the playoffs all the time. And I think you just go back to you can make a couple of adjustments, but if you have like an adjustment for LeBron, when LeBron has it, if you have an adjustment for when Rondo has it, if you have an adjustment for when AD has it, it's just really tough to just get on the same page, especially if they're not communicating like you're saying. So just live with the results that happen and at least you're on the same page.
It's obvious that Yoke's got to be way better. The guy was up in pick and rolls. He was way back in pick and rolls, still getting blown by. He's got to be better for them to have any kind of success defensively.
Not only do I agree with that, but I attribute a lot of his fouling to that. Like, when you're that deer in the headlights and it's like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And then you just like last minute do some shit like that or whatever. And he just he can't be in foul trouble. Like, was it the last game in the 4th quarter where he had to go to the bench for like 3 minutes? That was a massive error on their part for him to be in that situation, period. And specifically on his part to commit that foul. Like, there are a lot of times where as a coach, in the NBA, they have like a contest everything type mentality, I find. To me, there's almost times where I'm like, just let that guy dunk that. Like, you're more valuable on the floor, get out, go next possession. And I know nobody likes to say those kinds of things, but you can't have the Joker sitting on the bench for 3 minutes in the 4th quarter when it's crunch time. You just can't.
So going to that point, because I think that's important, do you scheme your game plan now around that? Because it's become problematic, right? Like, you can't, like we're talking about, you can't have him on the bench in crunch time because he's so valuable on the offensive side. It's not LeBron and AD on the floor that we're game planning for. It's, hey, we got Jokic on the floor. Like, we're only playing this coverage so that he doesn't get in foul trouble. Like, he's too valuable for us. It begs a great question. If anyone has anything on that before moving on to the Lakers, I'd love to hear it.
You think that's really difficult for Denver to dictate because even if they do decide they're going to do that, the Lakers could throw AD at the 5 and Jokic has to guard him anyway. And then he's going to inevitably get fouls. Like, it's just, in my opinion, it was just about the worst matchup the Nuggets could have because Jokic can't guard AD without fouling him. He's not quick enough.
But I guess, don't you think that like that's the Lakers adjusting to what the Nuggets are doing rather than the Nuggets trying to adjust to what the Lakers are doing? Like,
No, I agree.
yeah, there's going to be adjustments, but something that always stuck with me, and it was more of like a life lesson, but something that we always did in college too, was you have 3 priorities. If you have 4, you have none. So like, here's our priorities, here's our keys to win the game, whatever those are, and then basically build your philosophy around those 3 things. But if you want to, like I said, if you're trying to, we're going to bring Jokic to help every time, and that's not something you've done all year. Kind of like that one clip, like between, we didn't know if Jamal Murray or Jokic was coming to help. Well, how much resistance is Jokic at the rim? Like, are you better off just having Jamal Murray come and vertically contest and keeping Jokic on McGee, making sure he doesn't get the offensive rebound and just play out of a scramble? Like, there's just so many things. There's so many things that go into it that you can't just like, we're going to drop him in this, in my opinion.
I think Jokic just has to be smarter, and he's got to not pick up fouls when JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard are in the game, like, because when he gets put against AD, it's such a tough matchup for him in more rotations and just guarding AD when he faces up and drives. Like, he's got to be conscious about not fouling when he's guarding Howard and McGee.
I don't know.
Hey, Jimmie,
Yeah.
Jimmie, quick question. Because I think a lot of times that I don't think the fouls that Joker gets those fouls when they put him in ball screen situations and LeBron just attack him and put his body into him. And so he gets in trouble that way more so than anything else, because they're going to find a mismatch. Well, he's going to have to guard LeBron in a ball screen situation, and LeBron is going to attack him. It don't matter how you want to hide him, how you want to scheme him. They're going to find a matchup. It don't even matter. It could be anyone setting that ball screen, whoever he's guarding, they're going to do that to get that switch.
What if they just win zone? I don't know if Denver has ever really tried it, and maybe if you just have go zone, you kind of mitigate that a little bit. And Lakers aren't really a great 3-point shooting team, so you could try that.
I think they got to come up with something different. I don't know what it is. I don't know if you're just saying, hey, we're going to go under LeBron every time, and if he shoots 7 for 12 from 3 and we lose, tip our hat, or it's we're going to rotate with the next guy, and whoever it is on that side, we're going to send him. And make sure we get out of his hands, and it can't be Jokic. I've thought zone 2, especially with the history of the Lakers kind of up and down shooting the ball. I think in these situations, the volatility of the 3 ball can help Denver, especially as well as, they rely on it. I think you got to kind of do something different, or else you're going home tonight.
I don't see how the Lakers don't just go straight to it every single possession to start the game. I mean, and like I said in the breakout room, McGee and Howard are a lot more versatile than fucking Ivan Zubac. So getting exposed.
I'm with you. I mean, I'm in the same boat. Playoff series is so much more about going at dudes that you can attack. The fact that they're not going LeBron, Jokic pick and roll every time and pick up 2 quick ones, or however you're going to do it, make them show their hand of what their adjustment's going to be. I think that's what they should be doing. I wouldn't deviate from anything other than that until Denver can show that they can stop it or, make a change. I'm going to jump into the Lakers now. Brian, unless you want to jump in for anything.
Yeah, I was going to say, let me I'm going to do this this other quarter, this Fab 5 real quick, just some context for what you're doing, because I think it'll help make some things come to life.
Sure.
So number 1 in the Fab 5 I normally go through is numbers, right? So we're just going to go through the 4 games, and I'll give you some numbers just to kind of give you perspective. In game 1, so to me, rebounding is a huge part of this series. The team that wins the glass usually wins the game in this series. So game 1, the rebounds were pretty even. The Lakers shot a high clip from the field with 53%. They had 33 assists in that first game, 10 steals. They made 11 threes. Denver made 9. They won by 12, I think they did in the first game, 126-114. High-scoring game. I thought the Lakers, as far as the talk about like the turning point for each game, I just thought they dominated from start to finish in that particular game. Jumped on them early and kept it that way. And points in the paint was pretty much even as well. Lakers 52, Nuggets 54. So game 2, pretty evenly matched game, and a game Denver definitely could have won. I have the turning point, obviously the last shot, because it was so evenly matched. But the Lakers were +6 on the glass. Assists were even. The Lakers had 24 turnovers. It's their worst turnover game of the series and almost cost them the game. The Nuggets had 33 free throw attempts, not something that's typical from them in this series. The Lakers made 13 threes in that game. Definitely cut their turnovers down. And then points in the paint were pretty even. Going to game 3 where Denver really dominated. I thought they took the first punch and took the Lakers formula from game 1 and kind of just dominated the energy from the beginning. But they were +19 on the glass, the Nuggets were, in game 3, which was a huge key. The Lakers have actually made more threes in the first 2 games than Denver, surprisingly, because Denver is known for more of a three-point shooting team. In this particular game, in game 3, they were 6 of 26. Denver made 11 threes, so they were +5 from the three-point line. Lakers still had their 27 assists. Lakers had 11 steals in that game. Lakers surprisingly had 64 points in the paint to Denver's 48. Denver had 20 turnovers in that game, similar to what I think Coach Robinson just mentioned. The turnovers are a big key, but they won the game despite the Lakers' 21 fast break points and 64 points in the paint because they defended them from the 3 and they rebounded, +19. So that's a huge stat. And then going to game 4, Lakers made a point on the rebounding glass. I think that's why they started Dwight Howard. He did a phenomenal job and really was kind of the X factor in that game outside of Jokic's foul trouble. But the Lakers were +12 on the glass, 51-39. Threes, they both made 10. Lakers made 28 free throws to Denver's 20. Assists were even, 23-22. But then the Lakers, again, had 9 steals, 17 fast break points, and pretty even in the paint. I think the matchups are pretty obvious who's winning what matchup. You just go guards. Murray is winning the matchup versus whichever guard you put him with. So I'll say Green for starters since he's the starting guard. Murray's definitely dominating that matchup. KCP and Harris, you would like to say it's a wash, but KCP's just shot it at such a high clip. He's shooting over 57% from 3. He's playing really well. He had 18 points in the first game and really just finally kind of get into a groove as a shot maker. He shot it significantly. Their best three-point shooter on their team at this point. LeBron and Grant, pretty obvious matchup. LeBron's winning that. Grant had a huge game in game 3, which helped them win. So they definitely need him to play well. Anthony Davis dominating that matchup, obviously at the 4 spot, and then Jokic is winning the matchup at the 5. The bench, I would say to this point, in my opinion, the Lakers are winning that, although it's minus that one game. But Rondo is such a huge factor off the bench because really he's a starter. The Nuggets haven't really gotten consistent production off the bench every game. And then coach-wise, I think it's offensively, I think Malone's doing a heck of a job. I think defensively is where what we talked about. They have to make that adjustment. And then Vogel's done such a good job with their defense. I think that's what the Lakers are really holding their hat on and why they're winning the series like they are, because defensively they're just a better team. The X Factor is number 3 in the Fab 5. I have the Lakers X Factor as Rondo, just because he brings another playmaker to the floor. He brings more IQ and just somebody who really can, again, attack and take LeBron off the ball and not having to make every single play. So you can put ball screens with LeBron and Jokic or Rondo and Jokic, and then it just makes it where, LeBron for really one of the first times in his career has a real other pass first guy on his team. You know, he's had Kyrie as a playmaker, he's had D Wade as a playmaker, but really hasn't had a setup guy like that. And I think it's a great luxury for the Lakers. And then foul trouble is an X factor for Denver. You know, when they're not in foul trouble, they have a greater chance to win. When they're in foul trouble, I think Game 1 and Game 4, that was the hugest separation. Game 2 and 3 were the most evenly matched games, or Denver had more of an edge. They didn't have that same foul trouble. So to me, that's the huge X factor for Denver. Beyond the numbers, number 4 is really just, to me, just the eye test, the defensive connectivity and defensive energy from the Lakers versus the Nuggets, to me, is the difference in the game. And I think just the main guys being elite, I think LeBron and AD, to their credit, have been elite in this series. Both teams need their elite guys to be elite, and I think that foul trouble, again, really hurts Denver, because then they have to have somebody else step up, but they don't really have anybody else to kind of match that alpha level of those two guys. And then really that's all I really had. So, yeah, you can go straight into your Lakers deal. At least just wanted to give some context for the numbers behind all of it.
Yeah, and I think the biggest theme, kind of, you just hit on it too, and kind of what Matt Dickman was talking about, was defensive connectivity, and that the Lakers are not giving up the same easy buckets that Denver is. Definitely not in the quantity. Like, they'll have some mishaps and stuff that you'll see here, but let me actually do this.
And I think there's a part too, like, even when Denver, they're both scoring, you know, over 100 a game in this series, but it comes down to, like you said, there's not a lot of resistance. Lakers are getting some of these things easy, and I think most of what the Denver has to get, they have to earn it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing that I noticed too, is maybe I didn't give the Lakers enough credit, and maybe people don't in general, just because they do have the star power there. But I think defensively, they're pretty good. And we'll kind of talk about transition defense starting. I think this is on everybody for them. Like, you're down 18, like, you know, none of that is your defensive principles. This, to me, says we're going to lose this game. Like, this is what it means to me. Like, jog, Caruso behind the ball trying to catch up. You don't do that against a good player. Rondo stabs at it. That's a losing game. Someone needs to stop the ball here. It could be Danny Green taking a better angle. It could be Dwight Howard sprinting back, setting the wall. You just can't have that. That's just not good enough. Backpedal here by Anthony Davis. This is, I think, like, no matter where you're coaching, like, first 3 steps, whatever it is, whatever your terminology, you can't backpedal, whatever. Like, that leads to this. Like, doesn't need to happen. It doesn't need to get the foul call. Again, backpedal here. Right, great retreat by everybody else, like Caruso, LeBron, Danny Green. These guys are sprinted. Markieff Morris is backpedaling. If this is a 2-on-1 drill that, like, pretty much everybody does, like, they're never going to backpedal from that point. You got to pick a spot. Like, you're there, go vertical. Like, don't bail out, in my opinion. Like, that's the last thing you want. Everything else besides that was good. Here we go.
All those first ones you showed, though, were all in Game 3, I believe, and that's that game when, you know, again, they're strictly kind of had their foot on the gas from the beginning. You know what I mean? They had that dominant, assertive mindset, and, you know, imposed their will, and they didn't get in foul trouble, and they never really had it. It wasn't as competitive of a game. They made that separation and never really looked back.
Yeah, I think they got to come out with that same type of nature, being aggressive. Like, you'll see this right here, like, ball watching, like, ball's there, like, all right, we got to get back. Like, to me, no urgency here. Like, you're up 6, end of the first quarter. Like, you can't have multiple passes like that. At least there's a bad foul. Talk about pick and rolls. This is a little bit different than Denver. This is where Denver is doing a lot of their damage. Staggered DHO, right? LeBron's going to get caught here. They switch this, right? And then it turns into like this flare or whatever. So this could be treated like a ball screen. He could be technically the roller, however you want to look at it. LeBron's going to read. Reed's going to be inside out, especially with Dwight Howard this high. Gambles, dunk. KCP, same situation here. Right, middle of the floor. JaVale, good position. Jokic not a rim threat as far as a lob goes. Let them two figure it out. KCP tries to gamble. Everything was open there. Same thing. So not sure how you want to look at this. Is this KCP or AD? I don't know whose fault this is. However you want to look at it. Right? AD's high. KCP's there. Should AD be this high going to a double side? Not sure their game plan, but AD gets really mad at the end of the day on that play. Like, these are the ones that really hurt the Lakers. Like, that's a really high shake. I get it. But I think AD's got – this is the single side action you're kind of looking at, especially in college, that you see a ton of. AD's probably should be a little bit lower. Should be probably pinched in a little bit here, more towards the elbow, just showing a crowd. Allow AD to get back on the roll, which would keep KCP up for the three. So talk about switching. This switch, ball screen, fine. They can do that. But then Caruso can't get beat on that throwback pass. That can't happen. Post switch here, ball screen good. AD switches on the ball, throw it into Grant. LeBron comes. We got to rotate out of it. Good. Kuzma sinking. Caruso got the next two. Got Murray and Craig. Can't allow this 45 cut.
And all defensive principles at all levels. Like, you can't – you showed some clips of Kimba doing this, but you can't have your – go back a little bit. You can't have your back completely, or your face completely facing the ball like that. Like, his butt should still be to the baseline. You know what I mean? He has no idea what's going on both ways.
Yep.
I see that a lot in the NBA. A lot. Like, completely turned around watching the ball. But, like, to what Jimmy said, this cut turns my hair gray. Like, I look at that and I'm like, good God, please don't do that.
So it's something I think.
Especially, not to cut you off, Jimmy, especially in a double team. Like, you're not even guarding just one guy anymore. So to have your whole body face that way, knowing that you're only looking at the guy that's in the double team. You know what I mean?
Can you see my eye twitching, Brian? Can you see it?
Yeah.
Like, it's
I mean, it's right. This is standard, either disadvantage situation, trapping defense, whatever it is. Like, you know, you're not responsible for, even if they like split this double team or whatever. That's not you.
Yeah.
So, like, these situations, they got to be more stout with, especially the role players. This switch, right? So, all right, we're switching it. Late switch. Like, that can't happen. Like, no need to foul. Like, what? Like, you're not impacting him here. Like, the activity sounds great, but, like, beginning of third quarter to pick up a foul like that, low shot clock, can't happen.
Jimmy, what are you doing there defensively?
So here,
like, how can you play defense in this league without fouling is my question.
so you got to bait it, right? He's in 2-point area. Why are you contesting there? Back off. To me, like,
Yeah.
And then if he gets a 3-point land, then stick hand, live with the rotation. But like, this happens so fast, late clock. Like, everyone wants a late clock contested mid-range two. Why are you trying to, like, what are you doing there? Like, I don't care if that's like Kawhi or, you know, the best defensive players in the world. Like, you probably not going to be, you know, hugged up on him there. It might, like, I wouldn't.
So real quick, to just on that, like, if you're not where he's at and Jamal Murray takes another step back to the 3-point land, you're nowhere near to contest the three, right? Like, where would you be ideally? Because if he takes one more step back, he still has to get to the 3 to contest it. I'm just really frustrated with how the game is just, like, that's not a foul in college.
Right.
Like it's not, it's a tough play or whatever. Like, maybe it's a foul, but it's a foul on the ground. It's not free throws. This is the stuff, honestly, that makes me not want to watch NBA basketball.
Yeah, and I think this is where, like, Dwight Howard's got to hold his ground here, and you hold that ground until he goes up to the 3-point line. And then if he does get to the 3-point line, you can sprint out with a stick hand and force him off the line into your help of where you know the help's going to be. I think that's the only thing you can do. But I think what you don't want to do is that.
So
And
right
I
there,
I think the part where and I don't know for sure. I don't want to speak for you, Matt, but I think the part I kind of get from what he's saying is like as a big guarding a guard, if you give him too much space, like rewind it just a little bit, if he's not playing him closer, he just takes that one step back right there and he takes the three, and then now you're sprinting out and it's a blow by. So I'm curious on Danny Green's part, like as a guy who's averaging 35 plus in this series, it feels like, or in the playoffs, do you come off of him and not just reach with your arm and actually try to close that gap? And I know that's more maybe even a college principle than NBA, but I mean, that to me is as big of a fault as it is for Dwight Howard. He's not supposed to be able to guard Murray one-on-one.
So that's exactly. Go ahead, Malik. Sorry.
I was just going to say, so for me, no, I wouldn't, because as soon as Jamal crosses this on the big and starts towards the rim, so like as he's arriving at the free throw line, I think Dwight Howard has won, because if he steps back, I think that's a very makeable shot for Jamal Murray. Just like you guys are saying, the space is too big. He's not going to close it. That's a 3-point shot. Yes, it's contested, but I think that's a layup for him. As soon as he crosses and is breaching the free throw line at that point, like defensively, I think I've won, because the only thing he can do, in my opinion, with this amount of time left, if Danny Green is not digging as hard as he is shoot a hard, almost fall away shot if he doesn't pass the ball. And, you know, like if I'm looking at the shot chart, I'm going to live with that result. And to Matt's point, like I think in my league, the position that Dwight Howard is in right now, where he's got his arm on a penetrating guard and like he's leaning on him, I think in my league that gets called a foul every time, because like as he's driving, as soon as you're touching a guy who's in motion, like to me, I think Howard should just be off of him, high hand, late contest, and if he makes this fall away left-handed shot that he makes, pat him on the back. Like I'm gonna live with that shot, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't tell how much contact there was. It's pretty blurry for me. But, yeah, you're right. This probably is a foul. But still, like, go ahead. Whoever was going to go.
No, I think to Brian's point, like, I think there's going to be something to it. I think that's what you make adjustments for in the playoffs. Like, ISO situation for the best player, late clock, we're not letting him shoot this. And that's fine. Like, it's because what would happen is if that's known defensively, right, Danny Green is plugging it, LeBron's sprinting to Gary Harris, and we're getting a late closeout on the one more to Grant. And you know he's got to shoot it. And so it's a Danny Green's in, LeBron takes his, Danny Green X's out, high closeout, run him off the line from the corner. If he pump fakes, it's probably going to be a shot clock violation. I think that's what maybe, Brian, you're getting to. That's what I think you got to do against great players. I think by all means, we're not letting Jamal Murray, you know, they're up 10, start to the third quarter, second half, right? Like he's trying to get going. We can't, you know.
So then question for you, Jimmy. If you back it up to right as he's crossing over at the 3-point line, right? So he steps back, and if he shoots this shot, in my opinion, we're losing as the Lakers. And then as soon as he crosses right to left here, as soon as he's crossed there, yes, Howard is beat, but if you stop it right there, in my opinion, if I'm the Lakers, I've won at that point. So for both of you guys, if he throws an outside pass left-handed to who is it? Is it Harris up top there?
Yeah, Harris, yeah.
You guys think that is a better or a worse shot than Jamal Murray shooting that left-handed shot, like fade away at the second hash mark?
I mean, given situationally, I think you obviously don't want to give a catch and shoot three, but I think schematically you can do both. Right. I think you can disrupt him from driving this, and I think you can run Gary Harris off the line. I think what the Lakers came out doing, or not saying I'm saying what they did was wrong. Like, and I agree with you. Like, Dwight Howard, like, great, you forced this drive right here. You're building an AD there. LeBron's there. Like
full retreat.
Danny Green could, you know, he doesn't even need the help. Like, great, Dwight Howard, like, force him to Anthony Davis. Like, let Anthony Davis wall up Dwight Howard, go get the rebound. Like, you can do it all. I think the bailout, like, you can't bail him out. Like, you can't have a cheap shooting foul first play, third quarter. I think that's the worst thing in the world.
I agree. But I understand both you guys' point. I don't think I'm even digging with Danny Green. Like, hindsight, looking at film in a perfect world and all that.
Right.
I like as soon as he crosses over, if I'm the Lakers, I'm like, we've won this possession.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna go shoot something again. Like he's got, LeBron's in there, AD's in there. He's got Dwight Howard chasing him. That is like, I don't know, 21 feet between the three of them and wingspan.
So I guess real quick, and I didn't mean to spend so much time on this. Sorry, Jimmy. This is not like even in college. In college, if you're Dwight Howard right here, what are you telling Dwight Howard? Show your hands, right?
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm saying is this is going to be probably going to be a foul no matter what Dwight Howard does because he's beat a little bit. If there's any contact, which Jamal Murray's going to go get contact, this is going to be a foul. So how do you have Dwight Howard cover up this much space? Like they have so much space to guard with the NBA line. It's just really tough to just even play defense.
You just be honest.
And it's the rules, huh?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Sorry, man. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think it's perfect. And same thing. Like this is early in the game, post double. They switch the ball screen. Like Dwight Howard's coming. Same thing with the Caruso one, right? Now he's ball watching. Sorry, Menelik, but you're gonna know who you guys that you're covering. Same thing. If you're switching, you can't get rejected. Try to fight over the top. Forces Rondo to help. Wide open three. Reject on a switch can't happen. Again, bring it out. Danny Green trying to fight, be aggressive. That looks like you're trying to weak him basically, but contest for there. He's going to be aggressive. Dwight Howard up high. Can't get beat. That's just he's too good for that. If you're icing, especially to a loaded side, again, can't get beat there. That just can't happen. Probably a travel. But, again, not good enough. That similar theme right here. Pistol action. He comes off. Right, what are they doing? JaVale McGee's got to have better awareness, especially with Plumlee out there, non-shooter. In case he pops, it's fine. McGee's got to stay between ball and basket. Kuzma thinks that we should be icing it. Probably should be. Big doesn't call or doesn't get there. Either way, it's on McGee. Interesting right here. Maybe something they should look at more of, especially if McGee or Dwight Howard's out there is ball screening for Jokic. It caused a little confusion. Leads to an open three. Again, if there's no impact on the ball, and this is LeBron here, he might get in, Rondo might get in his way on this. But when that happens, you got to play the ball before you can worry about the ball screen.
It's kind of that refusal of a ball screen almost, like you said.
Exactly. I think that's the biggest – when teams are switching, I think this is what you're seeing more of is just the communication piece of it. They double. All right, great. They're kind of figuring it out 4-on-3. What are the rules? Just make a great read. This was interesting. Rondo, I don't know if he did this on his own. Hard to see. But pick and roll, right, normal happens. Oop, I want to speed it up that fast. So here, right, normal pick and roll situation. Rondo comes all the way from the other side of the floor. I'll show it again. This is really smart. I'm not sure he's taking the roll, and he got the shake. He commits, and Rondo comes from the strong side corner all the way to the weak side. That's unbelievable. That's really good. Something that you don't see much of this is smart players, ball screen with Jimmy Grant. LeBron points it out, triple switch. I think the Lakers have built-in things they can go to, whereas I haven't seen it from the Nuggets. Talk about rotation here. This happens when you got a stretch five on the floor, right? Regular shell principles. He comes over. He's the MIG, low man. LeBron's going to sink. Dwight Howard's going to be the fill guy. How does it play out? LeBron takes the corner. This got to be Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard doesn't go. Danny Green has to make up for it. 3-ball. So is this game plan? Is this McGee always being the low man? Does that supersede your matchup? How does it work? I don't know what their rules are. but Danny Green doesn't look like he comes. So McGee's going to be the low man. And then he's still trying to get out to his own. Makes me think it might be a mistake, but, that is what it is. JaVale McGee, same thing. Plug in the gap, leaving shooter.
Can you go back one? Can you go back one clip, Jay?
Yeah, this one.
One more. This one. So yep. I'm curious. Keep a little bit more right there.
Yep.
So I'm curious on this, like at that level, like this drive right here is kind of similar to the last one.
Yep.
Like AD's literally putting the arm in, but again, it's the best scorer on their team.
Yep.
And I'm just surprised. Is it not a concept to kind of show more numbers and make him have to kick that to Millsap? And Millsap, no disrespect to him, is a good player, but it's not really comparable to making Jamal Murray not be as comfortable to just be able to go over the top of somebody's arm and go make another play.
I agree. Like, especially he gets beat there. Like, I think you full contest, and if you need a late veer on that drive, Anthony Davis takes the ball. KCP got Millsap on the perimeter. I'm not, you're probably not too worried. I agree.
Matt, is that something you guys – I don't know NBA as much. Off the ball, guys are standing a lot more in college. All these guys are supposed to be in a stand, so to speak. So I know it's a different game. But, Matt, even with your organization, is that something that you guys teach or don't teach, or is it more about kind of bluff and get back?
No, we do. We teach the kind of almost leave it up to the guys, their discretion. But, yeah, it's really funny to me though too, because I feel like 90% of the time, like this person doesn't do a whole lot and just puts himself in a really bad position on a closeout. Like there's so many of these clips where if you go watch, and you can literally just watch, like go to the pickup, Jimmy, if you could, like when he lands, or even just when he gets through that guy. Like if Millsap is a shooter, and this has happened with shooters, if he just plays basic youth basketball principles and slides to the break, it's got a wide open shot. But he puts himself, by just standing there, he puts AD in the passing lane. Like it's just bad principles on offense, but makes the defense look okay. But really, it's just making him pick up the ball.
Right.
Makes Jamal Murray pick up the ball early. But you have such dynamic guys, they can get from the top of the free throw line, circle, whatever, and get all the way to the basket in 2 steps, easy.
So I'll talk about, I'll go to this one. And just like basic blow by, like good drive, but probably not, LeBron's probably not expecting it. Late clock, like I think you got to be more alert, but there's no space here. Like I just think this can't happen. I don't know. You could just say LeBron be a little bit better on this, I guess, or Danny Green plug this gap a little bit more. KCP's right here. Jamal Murray can't go to the corner. There's no space. Anthony Davis could come over, save the day. Just not good. I think off the ball stuff they're not very good at either. This is one area I think we need to be a little bit better. Simple flex. They're trying to switch it. Caruso tries to make a play. Trying to top lock Jokic on this. Dwight Howard gets caught again on a different play on an inbound right here on this flex action. He's trying to beat him. Instead, he gets pinned in, forces LeBron to come out, and then, they didn't tuck it on the backside, wide open 3. Just want to hit their zone real quick because I think, some people might have thought it was really good. I think they just threw it at the Nuggets just to try to figure some stuff out. I'll let these run. It's pretty easy to exploit them. They're not comfortable in the zone. They went to it kind of by default. These are possessions I pulled up. Right, can't get beat. 3 guys in the ball, layup. Dwight Howard moving all around. That's just 1 pass, 3 ball. Again, like.
I'm sorry, guys. I have to laugh at that because at my level, there's so many times that I look at guys and I'm like, just shoot that. Like, we're not going to get a better shot. That's the one right there. And obviously they have the ability to make that a consistent thing. But when it's one pass shot, it's like, what's the point of this zone at all?
So that's where you're like, Denver, keep it simple, right? Like, the Lakers are disjointed. Like, they're going to it, trying to throw us off our rhythm. Like, dude, let's just play our game. I don't overcomplicate it. Some things I wanted worth noting before throwing it back to Brian. Going forward, I think you're going to see this more. Jokic has yet to use his left hand or go over his other shoulder. This was, that's just not a good turnover for him. Like, he's being played to go the other way. Can he drop step, make a play the other way? This was game 3 instead of game 4. You see it heavy sitting middle. They're allowing him to go the other way. This is the shot selection kind of that we see, and they're up 17. Worst thing you want to do is shoot yourself out of the game. Like, you're heavily contested, 14 seconds on the clock. That's not good. Next offensive possession, or you got Grant launching a tough one early in the clock over Anthony Davis. That's heavily contested. And then we already seen this one. 14-point game, again, contested. That inexperience, to me, you can't have that if you're trying to beat a better Laker team. I thought this was something worth noting. I think LeBron's got to be better at this. You got the easiest 2-for-1 situation. Denver's working their way back, right? 5-point game. There's a full 48 seconds on the shot game clock. The easiest 2-for-1 you could have. So all you got to do, like, and this is, I'm going to fast forward because they use the whole clock. And he shoots it at 27, 4, whatever it is, right? That can really hurt the game, in my opinion. Just things.
What's the ideal time in a 2-for-1 to try to look to take the shot, you think, Jimmy?
Anywhere between 30 and 40, honestly. I mean, you can get specific and talk about it, but, like, it matters, but it doesn't matter. You're talking hairs of points either way, depending on your personnel and how you kind of do it. But no matter what you do, like, LeBron would have been better taking a step back 3 at, 39 than he was taking that shot at 24. So just something I was like, oh man, like, Denver blew it. Like, yeah, whatever, but you're allowed 2-for-1. But that possession, if you miss, and that's a 5-point swing if they come down and drill a 3. So.
Yeah, awesome video work, Jimmy, once again. We'll just kind of like the last, 10 or 15 minutes, just really talk about any adjustments we would make for next game, or what do you think Denver has to do? What do you think the Lakers have to do to win this next game? We'll kind of just go around. Let's start with you, Hunter. What do you think, man?
I actually haven't been able to dive into the games too much. Been pretty busy, but I do think I kind of question Jokic in the pick and roll. I mean, obviously he's, kind of handicapped skill-wise on defense, but, coming up high, especially with Rondo in it, I mean, I'm kind of confused by that. I feel like, we all know Rondo's trying to get to the rim or trying to create. I don't know why they're bringing him up so high. The few times they drop, like Jimmy said, he was still a couple steps too high on the drop, but I feel like that's a solution that I'd definitely look at and try on the defensive end for them.
Good stuff, Hunter. Casey Crawford, what do you think, man?
I think for the Lakers, in this game, what we were talking about in the breakout rooms, like, Anthony Davis settled early in the series. I feel like he was okay shooting a 3. I feel like this game he has to come out and, like last game, and establish himself early in the paint. And then for Denver, I was thinking like an adjustment at least so that Jokic isn't switching per se, like hedge that, like get LeBron away from the 3-point line and recover a little bit so you're not getting Jokic on the ball per se.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Anthony, what do you think?
I mean, kind of like Hunter said, Denver's got to figure out that pick and roll situation. I mean, yeah, they've gone 3-1 the last 2 series, but I mean, LeBron's some stupid stat like 14-1 when he's 3-1 in a series. So I don't know. I think the Lakers figure it out and get it done, move on.
I saw an interesting stat to think about too as we kind of get everybody else's thoughts. I think they said the Lakers are like 54-0 when they go into the fourth quarter leading, which I thought was pretty incredible stat, thinking about, their chances of winning when they have control in the fourth. Lamar, what do you think, man?
I think it was over after game 2. Y'all don't realize LeBron 22-0 when you go up 2-0. So that don't matter. No, the Lakers is just like the Lakers can play any way you want to. They can play big. They can play small. They can play fast. They can slow it down. They don't have a I mean, everybody talk about shooting is their biggest weakness. If that's their biggest weakness, they'll figure out how to score in transition. They'll figure out how to get to the foul line. I just think they don't have a lot of weaknesses. And, like, Denver can't afford to have Jokic not have great game. He has to be great, not just good. He has to be great. And they can't beat them if he's not playing great.
Good stuff. Brant, what do you think, man?
I think come crunch time when Rondo's in with LeBron and AD, if the Lakers run the show through Rondo, the Nuggets got no shot. Get LeBron in the mid post. I think the Lakers become easy to guard sometimes when LeBron catches and holds at the top of the key. So if the Lakers run their stuff through Rondo in that last 5 minutes, and it's a close game, Denver's got no shot defensively.
Darrell?
I think Denver needs to do a more aggressive job of attacking the paint and actually even going post. I think even Paul Millsap could be used more, on the block, just something different. I think that'll utilize Jokic. Wouldn't have to they wouldn't put so much focus on him because he's limited in certain situations, to where I just think it'll put a little bit more pressure on the Lakers with them doing something like that. And that's something else I said. I said one thing I'll never get comfortable saying is Paul Millsap for three. It just don't sound right to me. I just think he's more – it just don't. I just feel like he's more of a power player. I think they should try something different with that.
I know some of these other guys got their screens off. Andrew or Caleb.
Yo, can I add to that, B? Can I add to that,
please.
B? 2 minus players in this series, no matter how you look at it for Denver. Gary Harris has a 72 offensive rating. That's horrible. And Paul Millsap, as much as he's playing, he got an 86 offensive rating. So you can't win with 2 minus guys on the floor who's playing a ton of minutes. That's the biggest thing, too. There are 2 minus guys on the floor every night for them, and their offensive rating stinks. So you're at a disadvantage as well.
One of the things we talked about in our breakout room is how tough it is to win a closeout game and how that's a skill. And the Lakers have veteran guys that are going to get it done because the Nuggets are just too young and don't have that experience of closing out a series. So I think that the Lakers' maturity and veteran leadership in Morris and Rondo and LeBron and AD, guys that have been there before, are going to handle it tonight.
Good stuff. Good stuff. What about you, Andrew? What do you think, man?
Just Denver, just building a wall and loading up to the ball in transition is going to be huge. And then just like Coach just said, in our breakout room, we talked about it's a skill, being able to close out games and close out series. And so Lakers just attack Murray and Jokic and MPJ, make them expend energy on defense. So they won't be able to have that same pace and same flow on offense. But really it is just closing out the series and kind of closing the door on the Nuggets. So should be good.
Good stuff. KT, I know you're driving. I know you're probably in a whole completely different time zone, time of the day. I don't know if you want to chime in. Appreciate you joining. And then Arlington, too, and John. And if not, we'll go straight to Mr. Analytics himself, Adam Hood.
Hood-alytics.
Yeah, he may not be present with us. All right. Matt, share some of your thoughts.
I'm here.
Oh, go ahead, Hood. There we go.
Yeah.
Hoodie's in the
here,
building.
man. I just been listening. I got my son. I've been feeding him. He was up, had a late night last night. But no, I think again, been great for him. And I do agree. I think the rebounding battle is really critical. I think that's a huge piece of it. Obviously, starting Dwight Howard was huge for the Lakers with him. Gobbling up the glass the first quarter and setting the tone and roughing up Jokic a little bit. I think that's, part of it too. I think Jokic having to expend energy not only in the pick and roll, but fighting and clawing with Dwight Howard does tire him out. I don't know. Again, conditioning has always been kind of his kind of Achilles heel, as far as, and also defensively. But I think that's just wearing him out physically, and they're actually attacking him. So again, I think the Lakers getting points in the paint, is huge. Attacking is huge. I think Denver has to stop settling as much, and I think, I think if they can do those things, if Denver can rebound, because that's just such a backbreaking, a bad shooting team like the Lakers, allow them to get second opportunities is gonna be the death of them. So I think unless they come with more sense of urgency in that regard on the glass, I think that's going to be the big turning factor.
Yeah, great stuff, Hood. Yeah, it's surprising. And going through those numbers, I'll make sure to print those or put those on the share screen next time so you guys can see them and not just listen to me talk about them. But Denver has only made more threes than the Lakers in one of these games, which is surprising because the Lakers are kind of pointed at as like, well, they don't shoot the ball great, but they've shot it better than – they've made more threes in this series than Denver has. Matt, what do you think, man? I say the best for last. You and Jimmy get to go last, man.
You give me way too much credit. I think, and not knowing what's going on in the in the meetings and stuff. Like, I think we kind of touched on it in the film. I'd like to see the Nuggets like maybe coach a little bit of that stuff a little bit less, like the habit type stuff that you're not going to build in the playoffs. And coach, like maybe like, hey, we don't need those shots at 17 on the clock. Those types of things, the stuff that is going to win you games down the stretch. Like, this series could easily be 2-2. So those types of situations maybe help show, the importance of those. And maybe I'd like to see the Lakers coach a little bit more. Let's get so-and-so downhill. Let's get Jokic in a ball screen every single time. It's simple stuff that I think the Lakers can do to just blow these games up, or just blow up possessions or even times in games and force timeouts just because they could just blow up the game with simple stuff like put Jokic in a ball screen every time. If you start that way in the first quarter, you have to burn a timeout early to adjust or, something along those lines. And I was actually at a question because I'm going through, my internet sucks. I'm going game by game. What are the offensive rebounds? I guess something I'm thinking about is how many guys is Denver sending to the glass? Stopping LeBron in transition has been a thing for, since he went to Miami, and that, obviously him and Dwayne Wade have just been that's been LeBron's career. Can you stop him in transition, send less to the glass or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like, but if you want to get back and do that, maybe send less to the glass. I saw game 1, they only had 9 offensive rebounds, and looking at game 2, and I can't, my internet's slow, but 7 offensive rebounds in game 2.
Hey, Matt, they have a 22.8 offensive rebound rate in the series, which is what they have. So I don't know, compared to when you look at the Lakers, if you're looking at the Lakers offensive rebound rate, 25.5. So, they're probably getting their fair share. It's just, are they really crashing, or is it coming long shots, long rebounds?
That's what I'm saying. Is it
I'm sure
worth it to go send, if they're sending 2, they just send the 1?
No, I think you got to get back and get in transition, because I just think, like you just said, LeBron in transition, that team in transition, he can hurt you more by going, but he gets KCP, Danny Green open threes that hurt you. Those are backbreakers. So I agree with they gotta probably get guys instead of crashing more, get guys back, I would say.
Yeah, they're one game in game 3 that they did win. They actually had 9 offensive rebounds to the Lakers 4. That's the game they out-rebounded them 19. Now, they had everything going, but a big stat for that game was Lakers shot 6 of 26 from 3. They defended the 3, and, again, Denver made 11. Again, just numbers without getting into the game. But that game, the Lakers had 21 fast break points as well, and 11 steals. So it seems like there's a combination of not only the glass, but just Denver actually defending the 3 from the Lakers, as surprising as it sounds, has been a key for that game that they won. Jimmy, what do you think, man?
kind of echo pretty much what everybody else was saying too. I think I pretty much agree with a lot of the points that were made. Something I don't think that's really been talked about is I think the pace of play. I think Denver, if they want to win this game, it's going to be ugly. It's not going to be a 120, 115 game. I don't think they should want to play that way. I think you'll see a rotation shrink a little bit. I think you need to keep your better players on the floor longer. So with that in mind, I think you got to play slower. Unless the situation dictates, right? You turn it over, or you get a quick break on a missed shot, a bad shot, you're able to get out. But I think you got to be methodical, make every possession count if you're Denver. The Lakers can be a little bit freer. We'll see how tight they come out in the first quarter. The Celtics came out really tight last night in that first quarter, but able to turn it around, and they showed some resiliency. I don't know if Denver has that. I think they're pretty immature in how they play. I think they need to be very cautious of the rotations. Porter Jr. shot the ball well that last game. I don't think you can always bank on that. So curious to see how quick of a trigger they have substitution-wise with guys. How they handle Jokic's minutes. Do you get him out early once Dwight Howard comes out and let Anthony Davis play against Plumlee? How do you do that? I think that'll be vital. But I think every time down, Denver needs to try to get a good shot because those leak outs, the turnovers lead to 2 easy baskets for the Lakers. If they get points in transition off turnovers and second chance points, Denver has no shot. But I think the game plan for the Lakers is a lot simpler than it is for Denver. Denver's going to figure out schematically, defensively, what they're going to do and how you're going to stop LeBron, especially if they come out with the mentality of putting Jokic in the pick and roll and attacking him.
Yeah, great points. The one thing to add kind of to Matt's points, what he was talking about, and even just the Denver's best defensive game, they held the Lakers to only 34 in the paint, only had 8 fast break points, the game where Anthony Davis makes the game winner, kept them off the free throw line. They only shot 19 to Denver's 33 attempts. And then just, again, they made threes that game, the Lakers did. They made 13 to 36. But they kept them out of the paint. They kept them off the glass. Did a better job at that. So it seems like to me for Denver offensively, they definitely have to get more free throw attempts. When they get free throw attempts and they're able to make their threes and balance everything out, and they're not just settling for jump shots or shots from Jokic, they've done a good job scoring in the paint. I think they have to continue to get to the free throw line to put more pressure and get the Lakers in some foul trouble. I think it's best they can. I know that's easier said than done. I think similar to what Matt said, offensively, it's frustrating watching the Lakers sometimes because it feels like they're just out there hooping and they're just literally standing and kind of playing ISO almost like Cleveland back in the day. It's frustrating to not see AD, them making a point to just get them actually on the block and not these post-ups one step inside the three-point line. So I do think that the Denver has a tough task ahead of them. They got to figure out how to get some stops, or if they're not going to get stops, they just got to figure out how they're going to outscore the Lakers, which I don't think that's the best strategy for them by any means. So it definitely seems like getting Jokic offensively, his touches inside early too. I know they're really good in their pick and roll, but I think getting Jokic those kind of inside touches, getting him a feel when the Lakers have doubled. Obviously, he's such a good passer out of it. Again, Dwight Howard, I think somebody hit on that already many times. I think he sets a tone and makes it hard. So how do you balance out those minutes offensively so Jokic can stay out of foul trouble? That seems to be a huge, huge key. The 2 games he's gotten in foul trouble, they've definitely had no chance to win. The times that they haven't, he hasn't gotten in foul trouble. They've been in the game where they've won it. So that game 2, obviously they wish they could get that one back. I know they're feeling really confident about their ability to beat the Lakers, but the Lakers definitely on the defensive end have set a tone. So it's going to be interesting to see, but I think the Lakers will figure out how to win a game tonight because, again, their edge is defensive versus their offenses are pretty closely even, but their defense for the Lakers, unless Denver can figure out some adjustments, which I don't know exactly what those are, but keep Jokic out of foul trouble and then figure out the rest. When he's in foul trouble, I think they're in the worst shape they can be in. So anybody else that has closing thoughts, man, feel free. Lamar or Andrew or Casey or anybody, feel free.
Hey, Brian, this is what I'm going to say. I thought for the first time all playoff series, when they walked off their floor the other night, when Denver did, and they were going back to that locker room, I don't know how much y'all focused in, that was the first time they knew they were defeated and they can't beat this Laker team. And if you listen to Jamal Murray in the press conference, he sounded very defeated. And I think they realized this is a different team than Utah and the Clippers. I just think their mindset now is, okay, we got to fight and we got to compete, but I don't think they know they can beat the Lakers. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think they're a confident team, but I think they realize how difficult it is because defensively, the Lakers are so good, and then offensively, they have the two guys they have that make it so hard, and then Rondo's making plays. Coach Fernandez, will you jump into? I may have missed you early on.
It's all good. I think to LB's point though, like mental fatigue, tiredness have definitely, like, they've played more games, right? Like they've basically been going every day for a long time. To what Coach Bramner said earlier, like Jokic has just got to be better. And what that means to me is like not picking up those fouls, as everybody mentioned. I think he's also got to run in transition a little bit better, which may be challenging for him. I think defensively, the Nuggets have to build that transition wall, which we talked on today. That's a huge deal because, like I said in our chat and here today, it ended up having a YMCA type feel at certain points in the game, and that's just really deflating. And then for me, solving the pick and roll really comes down to playing it with three. I know it's controversial or whatever, but like it's just the way that I would make it and be tagging off of non-shooters or less good shooters, I suppose, type deal. And in doing that, I would try and live with the result of the long closeout against them and see what happens. But all of that would mean nothing if you're not able to win this rebounding battle, which is a real problem for them right now, right? So like if whatever adjustment they go to in the pick and roll, they have to fix that rebounding problem because the Lakers are going to start Howard again, and Howard's going to roll right to that front of the rim again, and he's going to be a problem again. So like for me, all of the adjustments, basically like what we were saying, all of the adjustments for the most part are on the Nuggets side because like the Lakers can do pretty much what they were doing last time and win the game. And a special guest.
Hello, special guest. We should have had you on the whole time.
I just want to take a sec to introduce myself to whoever I haven't met yet. But I'm Andrew, assistant video guy for the Washington Mystics. Just got out of the bubble last week. So thank you guys for inviting me, and this has been great. I took a week off, but I'm just diving back into the playoffs now. So this has been a great start. So thank you guys for having me. This is great.
Appreciate you coming with us, Andrew, and welcome, man. Congrats on the season, and congrats on being able to be in the bubble. I know everybody wasn't out there. I don't think were they for the women's basketball. Was everybody in the bubble or?
Just limited staff. We're down at IMG in Bradenton, Florida, so it was a pretty cool setup. And to all your points about like going every day, just how the Lakers and Nuggets are, it's taxing, especially in the bubble when you're not seeing family and stuff. So I'm not sure how much of a role that plays into it, but it definitely is a real thing.
I've said this a few times, like some of these guys, you got to remember, like 25-year-old millionaires that are single, right? Like you're not living the typical lifestyle that you would be, the way that you unwind and relax and get away from stress. You can't do those things, right? Like and obviously you could speak to it better than any of us. Like when you're seeing the same people all the time for such a long period of time, it's like, man, you're breathing too loud. Like everything about you irritates me right now.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. And that is true. That's where strong leaders and good cultures just kind of breed and bring the best out of those groups. So that's why these four teams are so great, and that's why they're still there. So I would thank you, really enjoy this.
Thank you, Andrew. I would bet having being able to there now probably give some of those people a boost too, because they are allowed to have, some guys are allowed to have families, right? But I do think there's something to be said about like how elite Jamal Murray's playing right now, and certain guys, maybe because they are so locked in and there are no distractions, and they are playing in the same gym every single day, and it's a routine, and you just get in the flow, and next thing you know, the dude is, I don't know if we talked about it yet on this or anybody said in the breakout rooms, but his fourth quarter numbers are ridiculous. He's shooting over 58, I think, from the field, over 60 from three. He's obviously had an incredible breakout playoffs, but and the numbers for scoring, I think, are at an all-time high. Probably, I think they said for the first time in however long. So, yeah, looking forward to it. Those of you that don't have the chat info, please send Jimmie a message, or even Jimmie can put his number. I know we're a little bit late and we're about to get off, but feel free to reach out to either one of us to get you in the chat. We've just kind of been finding a way to stay connected through the week. You know, we only do this on Saturday, so if it's just a way to talk ball and, you know, have some fun with it, it's nothing serious. But feel free to be a part of that too. And thanks so much again, and we'll be back Saturday. And enjoy the game tonight. And Jimmie, you get any closing words, and then we'll roll.
I think you said it all. Appreciate everybody joining on, staying on this long. I know it kind of probably went a little bit over, but thought it was really good. And I look forward to this stuff. If you guys want to be part of the chat and you're not in it, please let me know. I'll definitely add you. It's on WhatsApp. So if you don't have it, please download it and I'll shoot you the info. No, I'm excited about it, guys. Thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your day, weekend. If I can do anything, just reach out. My number's in the chat. So, yeah, exactly, Matt. Make sure you don't shoot that. But no, appreciate everybody. I'll stop the recording now. But thanks, everybody.
Hey, stay safe, fellas.